Happy Wednesday, folks, and welcome to episode 441 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, May 11, 2022. I am Graham GSM Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well and having a great week so far. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Let's get right into it, starting with Joe M. from YouTube. Their first question was, once their feud wraps up, who is more likely to challenge for or win the AEW title, MJF or Wardlow? That's a good question. So, come the match of Double or Nothing, which we're inevitably getting. I know we're getting the contract signing tonight on Dynamite. We are getting the match of Double or Nothing, I'm sure. In that match, and I've been talking about this for a while now, I expect Wardlow to win. I want Wardlow to win. Now, I know MJF is coming off a loss on pay-per-view to CM Punk. MJF really hasn't won a hell of a whole lot on pay-per-view in the last year and a half. I know he beat Darby Allin at Full Gear, but they only have 4 pay-per-views a year. You got to remember that, too. It's not the same as WWE. But I still feel like pay-per-view wins should count for something, okay? So he loses to Punk at the Revolution pay-per-view 2 months ago. He then, before that, prior to that pay-per-view, beat Darby Allin at Full Gear. But prior to that, though, the last 3 pay-per-view matches he lost in 2021. Revolution 2021, he lost the tag team title match with Chris Jericho against the Young Bucks. Double or Nothing, he and the rest of the Pinnacle lost to the Inner Circle. And at All Out, he lost to Jericho one-on-one, which was the feud ender. So, he needs more pay-per-view wins for a guy that really hasn't lost a whole lot in AEW. He's only lost to Punk. He's lost to Jericho. And I think he's only lost 3 times one-on-one. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he's only lost one-on-one 3 times. That being said, I think he should lose to Wardlow. Wardlow is the hot hand right now. Could you have Wardlow lose and then win like the rematch on TV? Yeah. I don't know. It just feels like the right time to have Wardlow win. You can continue the feud, whatever it might be. I would have Wardlow win. The weird thing about that, though, is that I do think MJF, and I honestly, and I've talked about this before, I would have Punk win the AEW Championship at Double or Nothing. I know someone else asked about that. I'll get to that in a second. But I do think Punk should win the AEW Championship at Double or Nothing. Would I take it off of him immediately at All Out? I mean, on the surface, no. But if the story was done right with him and MJF, I don't know if you would go back to it that quickly. I might have to wait about a year or so until you rekindle that rivalry, because we just wrapped their feud 2 months ago. You could go back to it by September, August, I guess, and building up the match. I guess if you wanted to, you could. That just feels like a little soon, and I don't know if I would take the belt off of Punk that quickly. At some point, we will have a champion in AEW, a world champion in AEW. That's a champion for all of a month or 2, or just one pay-per-view. We will have a transitional champion at some point. It could very well be CM Punk, and I don't know if I would hate that idea. I just think if you have Wardlow win, and does he challenge for the championship after that? Maybe. I honestly think it'd make more sense if he went after the TNT title. Does Wardlow after the MJF feud? Now, that might feel like a step down because this feud has been hot. The TNT title has not been hot lately. But if you really look at it, regardless of who wins a Double or Nothing, Punk or Page, very likely I would not turn Page heel anytime soon. Either guy are baby faces. Even if Punk wins, you could go back to Punk and Wardlow. Punk owns a win over Wardlow. Wardlow doesn't really have a case there because it's not like Wardlow beat Punk before, so it's a little bit different. But Wardlow's a babyface, full and through at this point. Through and through, he is a babyface. So to then go from one babyface versus babyface program to another babyface versus babyface program, I don't know if I love that idea. So I think it would make more sense to do Punk against someone like MJF. Maybe not immediately. So I think whoever wins MJF Wardlow will not go on a challenge for the championship right after Double or Nothing. It might be a while. And of the two, not to say Wardlow won't be champion at some point. He very well could be and probably should be. He feels to me like one of their homegrown, organically over rising stars. Not someone they brought in from another company that's doing well, like a Moxley or a Danielson, but someone they built up from scratch that literally no one knew about prior to AEW. And they've made him into a star. Same thing with Jade Cargill. She feels like a genuine star, you know? So I could see him being champion at some point. I don't know if I would do it in the next couple of months. of the two, and it wouldn't be right after Double or Nothing, like I said, but MJF I could see probably challenging and or winning the championship from Punk, if not at the end of this year, then early 2022, or 2023, Jesus Christ. I mean, they got to put the belt on MJF soon. I know he's young, he's got his whole career ahead of him, but it feels like he should have been champion by this point because he's done great work. I know they've had their story being told with the AEW title, but MJF, if Punk, even if Punk doesn't take the belt from Page, and I think he will, but even if he doesn't, I feel like Page should probably drop it to MJF, which I've said here on the show before, and I thought it would be a Double or Nothing. They went the MJF Wardlow route instead, which is fine, but MJF and Page would make just as much sense, so either way, I'm going to go with MJF on this one. His second question, am I wrong in thinking that Cora Jade's loss to Natalya hurts her more than it helps her? I understand what they were going for in making her the underdog who will never quit, but I feel like it would have been far more effective with a Charlotte or a Sasha in that role, because to be honest, when was the last time a significant portion of the audience cared about Natalya? Oh, ages. I mean, that crowd will tell you that Natalya's a star, and when I say that crowd, I mean the people in the audience at fucking Full Sail, the NXT arena, whatever the fuck it is at this point, the Performance Center. They were lively for that match. I will give them that. That crowd is just the fucking worst at this point. I mean, I tweeted about this last night, but the reaction alone to Cameron Grimes. For what reason would you need to boo Cameron Grimes? I mean, these people were getting behind him. He was a hot babyface. And it wasn't as if he shat on them. He's having bad matches. He's had a poor character build. The man literally just won the North American Championship for his father that passed away, that was never able to see him as champion. That was the whole story of his championship win. It's Stand and Deliver a month ago, and already people have turned on him. If they like Solo Sikoa or Carmelo Hayes, that's fine. They're both great. They should be cheering them, although Hayes is a heel, so whatever. With Grimes, though, there's no real reason to turn on Grimes. Just because you love Solo doesn't mean you have to turn on Grimes. That, to me, makes no sense. There's a lot of other things they chant and try to make it about them. To me, it's fucking dumb. But anyway, you know, with Natalya, they chanted holy shit, Natalya's here. I cringed hard when I heard that. Natalya has been around for a long time. She is a notable name in that women's division. It has been ages since I last gave a shit about Natalya. Probably maybe 6, 7, 8 years. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, she's done some stuff. She's done some stuff since then, like being SmackDown Women's Champion. She's been Tag Team Champion, which I don't give a fuck about. Even the SmackDown Women's division, the SmackDown Women's Championship run a few years ago, I didn't give a fuck about that either. I mean, honestly, I think the last time I actually gave a shit about Natalya maybe was when she was in NXT the last time back in 2014. I said this last night as well on Twitter, but it feels like Natalya has her best matches in NXT between the Charlotte Flair one and this one. And maybe I enjoyed it more than most. I don't know. Maybe it was the crowd involvement to give them credit. But I can't remember the last truly above average match. And again, it might be the main roster not giving her many opportunities or time to shine. I've always said Natalya is not a bad wrestler. But compared to the rest of the division at this point, and the many, many talented women they have now and have brought in the last 10 years, Natalya is merely mediocre. She was the best of a bunch. She was the best of a bunch, not brunch. Brunch is great. She was the best of a certain bunch 10 years ago when they were hiring models and bikini models and people like that. They had no wrestling experience, and they just weren't that good in the ring. And some of those women ended up improving. People like Eve Torres got a lot better. There were a lot of women back then, though, that were not very good at all. Natalya was the best of that bunch. Compared to the 4 horsewomen and even Asuka and people like that, Natalya is not nearly on their level. Yeah, she's a second-generation star. Her father was Jim the Anvil Neidhart. She's not bad. But I can't honestly tell you, in the last 14 years, that's almost a decade and a half, that she has been on the main roster, I can't think of many, if any, above average, memorable, exciting Natalya matches. And it's not like she hasn't had opportunities. There were times 10 years ago when they, slapped her on with the fucking farting gimmick, which was dumb as hell. Stuff like that. Like, she's been underlooked and overlooked before, rather, and underestimated as far as her abilities go. And they weren't really using her in a meaningful manner when she was in her, I don't want to say in her prime, because it's not like she's bad now, but when she really was the best of a certain group of women, they weren't using her to the fullest extent back then. She had a 2-month Divas Championship reign back in 2010 that no one gave a shit about. She had a couple of matches with LayCool back in the day. I don't think her and Beth had one good match on SmackDown. That was like a 5-minute match 10 years ago. I don't know if many people would remember that, but I remember, and they had a really good match. But other than that, she did nothing in 2013. 2014, she may have had one championship match with AJ Lee. I don't remember. 2015, 2016. I'm talking 2013, 2014 on the main roster. In 2014, she had that great match with Charlotte at the first TakeOver. Not the first Arrival show, which was in February of 2014, but the first TakeOver show in May of 2014. That was a fantastic match and one of the better women's matches ever in NXT up to that point. Now I wouldn't even put it in the top 5, I don't think. Not even in the top 10. There's so many more matches that have been better than that one since then, but Charlotte really was put on the map by Natalya in that match. And you had Bret Hart at ringside, you had Ric Flair there. It was a really cool moment. But they just never really did much with her on the main roster. And just in addition to the fact that she's not overly special in the ring at this point, it's just really hard to carry. And she's been doing the same shit for 5 to 10 years now. Face, heel, face, heel, face, heel. And it's never remotely interesting. Regardless of what role she's in, she is never, ever interesting. She actually had a couple of decent matches from what I can recall Nikki Bella back in early 2017. I will give her that. They had a pretty good feud then. Their matches exceeded expectations. Other than that, though, I can't remember many overly exciting Natalya matches. And it's not because she hasn't had opportunities, because she has. That being said, I will defend WWE in this case. This is going to sound shocking because I think the NXT Women's Division is not good at all on the whole. It's a far cry from what it was even a year ago, six months ago even, from what it was in late 2021 or even in the summer of 2021 or whatever, before the rebrand, before they called people up and fired other people and all this other shit. I will defend WWE in this case. You asked, why wouldn't they put a Charlotte or a Sasha in that role? First of all, we had the Charlotte NXT run 2 years ago, and it was not good. She had a couple of good matches. She was on TV facing Mia Yim. Who else did she face during that run? She had one TV match with Io Shirai, I remember. I remember she teamed with Chelsea Green one time against, I think, Io Shirai and Rhea Ripley. She had a great match with Rhea at WrestleMania, but that NXT run was a complete waste of time because it's not even like she was pinned for that championship. It was a triple threat at that In Your House show, and Charlotte disappeared a couple of weeks after the fact anyway. So the fact they never went back to Rhea and Charlotte, they did go back to Rhea and Charlotte last year in the main roster, but in NXT, when Io won that NXT Women's title, she pinned Rhea Ripley. She pinned Rhea Ripley to win that championship. And Charlotte never really got her comeuppance. There was never really any culmination there. She just disappeared from the brand, and that was it. A complete and utter... Easily had Io Shirai be the one to beat Rhea Ripley, but they just had to put Charlotte in NXT, and then the pandemic happened, and it was something different. I applaud them for that. It just was a complete failure. It didn't get anyone over. We didn't get a lot of great matches out of it, and it was a complete waste of time. So I'm glad they didn't put Charlotte back in NXT. Sasha they have a couple times in the last couple of years, and they were always for very good matches. Sasha and Io Shirai was a great match from that Great American Bash show 2 years ago. She's been back in NXT for a few tag team title matches and stuff like that, which is cool. That being said, though, I think Natalya was the only person who worked in that role for that feud with Cora because the fandom, that legitimate fandom, it wasn't a made-up story. The pictures that they took together are real. There's tweets online they exchanged 7, 8 years ago that are legitimate. Cora Jade grew up idolizing Natalya. You couldn't tell that story with any other woman on the roster because I don't think anyone meant more to Natalya, or rather to Cora Jade, than Natalya did when Cora Jade was coming up, when she was 13, 14 years old. So it was cool they kind of went back to that and they acknowledged their history. They used legitimate tweets and photos and stuff like that. I think that's awesome. You are right, though. I don't give a fucking about Natalya. I don't want to see her be kept around beyond this feud. They had a really good match last night. I will give them that. I wish they had advertised it in advance. I think they advertised it on Twitter that day. But I'm talking about, did they announce it the week before? I don't remember that, if they did. I don't think they did. I feel like they just added it to the show on Monday or Tuesday online. But they ended up having a really good match in the main event. Jade looked great in defeat. It was probably one of the better Natalya matches I've seen ever in WWE. And you said, it might hurt her. When was the last time people really cared about Natalya? You're right, but you got to remember, even the lowest, Natalya's low on that totem pole on the main roster. But even she is higher on the totem pole than someone like a Cora Jade. It's not like you have Natalya in there beating Mandy Rose, who isn't an up-and-comer, but she is the champion. Cora Jade looked great in defeat. She had a great performance. Like you said, she didn't want to quit. That was the whole story there. And not only that, but, they embraced afterward and all this other stuff. Cora Jade is a prime underdog. They don't have a lot of women like her on the main on that NXT Women's Division roster. They have Roxanne Perez, who kind of gives me that underdog vibe as well. But other than her, they don't have a lot of women like that. But you also have to remember, too, Natalya is challenging for the tag team titles on Friday, in 2 days from now, 3 days from when NXT was happening last night. They kind of had, I was kind of thinking about during the match, I'm thinking, they kind of have to have Natalya win, because she is challenging for the tag titles on Friday. So you can't have her lose here and then go on to challenge for the tag titles after losing to an NXT rookie, a 20-year-old rookie on Tuesday. That just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It kind of reminds me, to a different extent, of Cesaro and Sami Zayn from that Arrival show back in February of 2014. Amazing match. Cesaro had won most of their previous matches. And I really thought Zayn should have won that match at Arrival. But it made sense for him not to win just because I don't think it was about to happen. I think it had just happened. But Cesaro had just barely come up short of becoming the world champion in an Elimination Chamber match a couple of days prior at WWE's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Cesaro went on to win the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal and become this hot star, if only for a little while. You couldn't have him losing. You couldn't have him lose to an NXT rookie at that point. It just wouldn't have made sense. Natalya is no Cesaro, but she also has more stuff going on in the main roster right now. It's not like she's like the Viking Raiders, for example, them losing to the Creed brothers. The Viking Raiders are on a higher totem pole than the Creed brothers just because they have more experience and accolades and stuff like that. They were undefeated, which I completely forgot about in NXT prior to last week. The difference there, though, is that the Viking Raiders are doing absolutely nothing on SmackDown. They are dead in the water. They'll likely be released at some point. And I hate to say it, and they're talented and great and all, but they have just not been relevant in ages. No one not even the NXT audience gives a fuck about the Viking Raiders. So them going in there and losing to the Creed brothers following a fun match, that made sense, and I would have been disappointed if they lost. Because they could lose the rematch next week, I guess, to kind of even the odds a little bit, but Natalya's a little bit different because she is on TV a lot on SmackDown, for better or for worse, and it just made sense. So that honestly did not bother me. And as far as Natalya coming to NXT, I don't really see it as a career resurgence for Natalya. I don't give a shit about that, but it does lend Cora Jade a lot of credibility to be able to hang with her in defeat. And, I don't think it would have worked with any other woman because of the story they told. So that didn't really bother me with Natalya winning. If she was in there beating Io Shirai or something, I'm thinking, okay, Io Shirai is on a much higher totem pole than Natalya. Even though Io Shirai's never been on the main roster, she should be beating Natalya, bar none. I think even Io Shirai beat Sasha Banks a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was what happened, right? Because Io Shirai at that point was the NXT Women's Champion. I don't think they would have had her in there with Sasha and lose. Io's not a champion right now, but I would still, if that match were to happen now, I would still have Io Shirai win. Because Natalya just means nothing. But to Cora Jade, she means everything. So I thought I was fine with that. Sorry for the long answer, but that was a very good question, though. No L from Facebook. We'll try to go a little bit quicker with these subsequent questions. Their first question was, who would be your top 5 Marvel superheroes? I don't know. I've always loved Hawkeye. He's been my number one guy, which sounds strange, but no pun intended, Doctor Strange. But I've always been a big Hawkeye fan, dating back to the first Avengers movie 10 years ago. So Hawkeye would be in there. Really anyone. My list is always changing. I love Iron Man, obviously, Captain America. Anyone in the Guardians, I guess those would probably be my other 4. Drax, Peter Quill, Star-Lord, Groot, Rocket, Gamora. Those would probably be my other top 4 or 5 beyond Hawkeye. But really anyone. There's really no Marvel superhero. I don't really like Captain Marvel. Brie Larson's Captain Marvel I'm not a fan of. I really don't care. But even like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, I grew to care about her more. Whether that was intentional or not from the people who made the movies, I don't know. But they gave her a really good character arc up until her passing. And even the movie that came out last year I thought was good. So I care more about her now as a character than I did 10 years ago when she was in the first Avengers movie. Or Iron Man 2 or whatever she was in at that point. But yeah, those would probably be my top 5 Marvel superheroes. And on a related note, we will have our review on the next panel podcast of the first season of Moon Knight, unless they do another one. I don't know, that might be the only season. But so we reviewed that yesterday over the phone. That'll be up here on the channel probably Friday with us breaking down Moon Knight. And then the following Friday, we reviewed this already too, but I'm going to hold off on putting it up until next week. Our review of Multiverse of Madness, the new Doctor Strange movie. No spoilers here. In the review, there will be, but here there won't be. I enjoyed it. I saw it last Thursday, and I really liked it. So if you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out. Noel's second question, do you think CM Punk should win the AEW Championship or be one of the younger stars of AEW? Jericho and Moxley were their first two champions. Omega and Page are their two homegrown champions, but every reign has been good to great so far. Really not a bad reign yet. Page's would probably be the weakest. He's had a good reign, but he's not exactly the focal point. So, but he's had a good reign, though. That being said, like I said earlier, I would probably put the belt on Punk. I feel like you can always put the belt on him at a later date, but he has so much momentum right now. He's super over, and he always will be over, face heel or whatever. Yeah, I would have Punk win at Double or Nothing. I know it might not be the most popular outcome for some people, but hey, listen, he's a super hot star right now. He honestly feels more like the face, the baby face, the top baby face. And if you have Punk lose to someone like an MJF or someone else on the roster that's an up-and-coming star, it won't really matter anyway. Not everyone has to be an up-and-coming star winning the title. Punk is an established guy, and he has credibility, he has momentum, he has the people behind him. Why wouldn't you capitalize on that? I'm not saying it'd be a bad move if they have Adam Page win. I wouldn't be upset with that either, but I just feel like it makes more sense to have Punk win the championship at that pay-per-view. At Ewagoo91, with the trios titles definitely confirmed at this point, do you think that that should be enough with AEW introducing more championships? Now, I would rather have a second women's championship, a singles title, than a fucking women's tag team title, which, unless you have like half of your roster as women, it's just not a good idea. Unless you really prioritize your women's division, it is not a good idea. I've never loved the ideas of women's tag team titles, unless you have... In AEW, it might make more sense because they have a lot of women and they have some teams. They don't have enough teams to really make it work. So I don't want to see that. I'm not even sure what other titles you can introduce to AEW. I know people were talking about an intergender title. No thanks. I mean, maybe at some point down the road. I have no interest in that whatsoever. We already have all the Ring of Honor titles. You really already have the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles. I would just bring those over to AEW and just have them float between the brands. You already have not that they were the most prestigious titles anyway, but even the 6-man titles in Ring of Honor didn't really mean anything because they didn't have any trios to fight for them. But in AEW, they do. They have enough trios to make it work. So I would just carry over the Ring of Honor 6-man tag team titles from Ring of Honor over to AEW and just rebrand those or whatever. Not introduce new championships, which is probably what they're going to do because it's their company. Whatever. It's not that big of a deal. But yeah, I think they definitely need trios titles because there's a lot of trios that we see trios matches anyway. So why not add stakes by having them, be for championships? Not everyone needs a title. I agree with that. I actually think less is more, but they have so many teams that it just makes sense. It's not like they have a second pair of tag team titles, which they don't need anyway, I don't think. But I think trios titles would be a second pair of tag team titles, but different enough to where it would work. So, beyond that, no, they do not need any more championships. A second top title, only if they had a brand split. If they didn't have a brand split, then no, they don't need another top title. They don't need another TNT title. They have the Ring of Honor TV title anyway, so it's not really necessary. Let's see here. His second question. With the brackets of the men's and women's Owen Hart tournaments revealed, who do you see winning for sure? Great question. So, I pulled up the brackets here. We'll start with the men. On the left side of the bracket, you got Rey Fenix and Kyle O'Reilly. I think Kyle O'Reilly... that's actually a good one. I don't know. I'm going to say Kyle O'Reilly retains, wins that one and advances. Samoa Joe and the Joker. I don't think the Jokers are going to win either round in the men's or women's. I feel like it's just going to be a free agent that they don't sign. They just bring in to lose to whoever. So I think that's going to be someone like a Gargano or a Cesaro or someone cool like that, but I think they will lose. So I'm going to say Joe and Riley in the next round. Joe wins. I don't know why they would put Joe in this thing unless he's going to either win the whole thing or at least go to the finals. Just because Joe probably shouldn't be losing, especially compared to anyone else in this tournament. So I don't see Joe being in this thing and not going all the way to the finals, if not winning the whole thing. On the right side of the bracket, obviously, Darby's beating Jeff Hardy tonight. No question about that. Adam Cole, Dax Harwood tonight. Obviously, we're getting Adam Cole advancing there. No question about that. Darby and Adam, that is interesting. I I don't know what would happen there, because the winner of that would face Joe in the finals. I'm going to say, I don't know. Because it's like, what do they do at the pay-per-view if they're not competing for the cup? I guess you could do Darby and Sting versus the Hardys. I mean, I guess that's an option. And maybe the Hardys beat Sting and Allen, and maybe the Hardys go on a challenge for the tag titles at some point, maybe? I don't know. I'm going to say... Yeah, I'm going to say Adam Cole goes over, and then it's Joe and Adam Cole in the finals, and then Joe wins the whole... I don't know. Of the two, Adam Cole probably needs it more, just because Joe is already the Ring of Honor TV champion. So I'm going to say Adam Cole wins the whole thing. I mean, it could very well go either way, but between Darby, Cole, and Samoa Joe, I think those are the top three, contenders to win the whole cup, and I think it's going to be Adam Cole. So going to the women's tournament, left side of the bracket, Toni Storm, Jamie Hayter. I think Toni Storm wins that one easy. Britt Baker and the Joker. Regardless of who the Joker is, whether it be, Ember Moon or Tegan Nox or someone like that, I feel like it will be Britt Baker advancing, because you got to get to Toni Storm and Britt Baker in the next round. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to, but it would make the most sense after Toni beats Jamie Hayter in the first round. So Toni and Britt, I'm surprised that's on the left side of the bracket in the semifinals and not the finals itself. That definitely surprises me. I'm going to say Toni wins that, though, and beats Britt. And then on the right side of the bracket, Riho and Ruby, they're kind of on the same playing field. I'm going to say Ruby beats Riho there. Red Velvet, Shida, I'm going to say Shida wins there. Ruby and Shida, I don't really think Shida needs to be in the finals. I really don't. I'm going to say Ruby Soho wins, and then we get to, because Toni and Ruby have been partners anyway on TV lately. So Toni and Ruby in the finals would be great. I think Toni Storm is winning the whole thing. Ruby winning would be a big boost to her, because she always loses whenever it matters most. But I'm going to say Toni Storm wins the whole thing, just because they seem to be priming her either for a championship opportunity or a TBS title opportunity against either Jade or Thunder Rosa or whatever. So I'm going to say Toni Storm wins the whole thing. Next question, also from Iwagu91. Do you expect Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins to face off inside Hell in the Cell? I do, because if it's not them, then who? Lashley and Omos was unfortunately a possibility, and it still could be a possibility, but the fact that they're having a steel cage match next week on the show gives me more hope that the feud will end there and not carry over into the pay-per-view. So I hope they're not inside the cell. Charlotte and Ronda would have been the only other match that made sense, but Charlotte's taken time off, so that's not happening. What other WrestleMania rematches did we have at WrestleMania Backlash? We had those two. We had... It was those two. Oh, AJ and Edge could very well be inside Hell in the Cell as well. I don't think the pay-per-view needs 2 Hell in the Cell matches, by the way. I know that's been the norm for a long time, and even 3 matches at one point, which was ridiculous. But, yeah, so I wouldn't do 2 necessarily. You could, and if it was 2, I would probably do those 2, even though they're both from Raw, but whatever. And then what was the other WrestleMania rematch? You had AJ and Edge. You had the women's match. You had... Corbin and Moss, the 6-man tag were at WrestleMania back. Oh, Bobby and Omos, which isn't probably going to happen, hopefully. So, yeah, I would probably do, if you were going to do 2, Cody and Rollins, and then AJ and Edge. And if I only had a choice between one of those 2, it would be Cody and Rollins. I feel like Cody and Rollins had the hotter feud. Rollins has history inside Hell in the Cell anyway. So that's what I would do. I would have Rollins and Cody be inside the cell and have Cody win for a 3rd time. So that's what I would do. At noob_n_co 1991, do you think Asuka and Becky Lynch's feud is more entertaining than Charlotte Flair and Ronda Rousey's feud? I know you don't like the comedy aspect of Asuka's character, but it seems like a majority of wrestling fans are loving this feud. I mean, that's not really saying much, because that Charlotte and Ronda feud sucked, and I say sucked and not sucks because I think it's over. I enjoyed the match on Sunday a lot better than the WrestleMania match, but the feud was just not good. And I don't know how you could say people are loving Asuka and Becky. It's only been going on for a week or 2, so I'm not really sure it's this super hot feud already. But yes, objectively it is a better feud, because Charlotte and Ronda just was not good at all. So it is a better feud. And you are right, though, that Asuka comedy is just terrible. When she was doing the whole baby thing on Raw, maybe you were laughing, maybe other people were laughing. I certainly was not. I could honestly, with the way, and it's not like her thing, oh, she speaks Japanese, I can't understand what she's saying. That's not it at all. They have her like rambling and screaming like it was so fucking loud in the arena. It was obnoxious. I wish I could have muted it, but I was in the building and I couldn't. So it was bad. She was like screaming. I could only understand like half of what she was saying. It's just not good. But the feud has been fine, and I think the eventual Asuka and Becky match will be great, as we all expect it to be, because they work very well together. So, yeah, it is a better feud so far, but again, that's not saying much because, one, it's only been 2 weeks, and two, Charlotte and Ronda was not a good feud. Your second question, after a disastrous main event, and with disastrous in quotes, on Dynamite last week, how will AEW improve their women's division? Some say a collaboration with Stardom, or the Joker revealed in the Owen Hart Cup. To me, it's the lack of sex appeal in the AEW women's division. Well, I can't say I've never disagreed with the question more, but this is definitely one of the ones that I have to completely give a hard pass on. I do not think at all it is a lack of sex appeal or whatever you say is the issue with that division. That sounds completely and utterly fucking ridiculous. And maybe you mean something else by that. I mean, again, these are only words. Maybe you meant something different than what you said there. From what you said, maybe you meant something a little bit, hopefully better than that. Because I don't think, and hopefully by 2022, we could realize that these women's division is not all about sex appeal. I know WWE will tell you otherwise because it's NXT, and it's all about the tits and ass and stuff like that. And it feels like we're going back to the Divas division days. And there are some good women in NXT, but I just feel like some of the emphasis on the objectifying of women, and we talked about this, I think, already last week when I talked about Ember Moon's comments about NXT, and she was 100% on the nose. Even without working there myself, I could tell you from watching as a viewer, the show has definitely geared towards the horny teenagers and stuff like that, just the horny viewers with some of the stuff they're doing with, like, Toxic Attraction I get because it's their gimmick. Everything else, like, people simping over Nikita Lyons, sitting on people, to me is just fucking weird. If that's the audience you want to attract to your show, good for you, but I feel like the division is just in the shitter right now. I mean, I love the fact there was a lot of female presence on the show last night, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. I thought that was great. Unfortunately, a lot of what they're doing with the women just isn't great. The Wendy Chu stuff with Toxic Attraction just sucks. I don't care about Natalya, but that match was great, though. I thought it was a very good match. But anyway, we're not talking about NXT. You're talking about AEW. How can it help, or how can we fix the division? We talk about this, I feel like, every other week, because their division is just... They have a good roster, a good crop of women in that division, but their presentation of the women on their shows is not great. I feel like the Owen Hart Cup has helped, will help get more people on TV. Ruby Soho was completely persona non grata on the show for 3 or 4 months. If you don't watch Dark or Elevation, you probably forgot she was even on the roster still. You probably thought she got let go or her contract expired or whatever, which is not good. So they've done a little bit better of a job with that, and the upcoming matches in the Cup will help in terms of getting them more on TV and giving us more competitive matches that we care about and stuff like that. There was a lot of things wrong with what your question was. I don't think it was a disastrous main event. I feel like that's a little harsh on Deonna Purrazzo and Mercedes Martinez. They had a good wrestling match. No one cared, and I don't blame them. I mean, it was a little bit disappointing, but I can't say I'm surprised because AEW gave people zero reason. I mean, I'm glad they main evented, and I hope that doesn't scare Tony Khan away from doing more women's matches in the main event going forward, but the biggest issue was this is a championship that these people aren't really aware of, don't really give a shit about. Deonna Purrazzo, if you don't watch Impact, you probably don't really care about her, and she's been amazing. She's one of the best in the world right now. But I don't think there was a single promo for her on the show. I know, they had her on the road to Dynamite. Who gives a fuck? I don't watch that shit. A majority of their audience probably doesn't watch their stuff on YouTube. You can't expect people to be watching Being the Elite or their YouTube stuff. You got to air some of that on the show. They did with William Regal, that amazing William Regal promo last week. They put that on TV, which, as they should have. You couldn't put a 30-second promo for Deonna Purrazzo talking about her reign and what she's been doing in Impact. I mean, I don't know if that would have helped tremendously, but it would have helped a little bit more from a viewer standpoint. And Mercedes hasn't really been on AEW programming at all in the last month or two. So again, I'm not really overly shocked that the crowd wasn't really into that, which was a shame. But the other thing is, that's not really their women's division. Oh, the match was a disaster. Deonna Purrazzo isn't even on that roster. And Mercedes Martinez, I would have to guess, will be more part of the Ring of Honor women's division than she will the AEW women's division, which is fine. And they got to establish where Ring of Honor is going. Are they getting a TV deal? Will they have their own show for them? How much of a presence will the Ring of Honor guys really have on Dynamite and girls? I don't know. But that wasn't their championship. It wasn't like an AEW Women's Championship title defense. It was a Ring of Honor Women's Championship defense, which It's not, I'm not entirely excusing it because they could have done better by it, but it's not their championship. It was more of a Ring of Honor match as an attraction in the main event that no one really cared about. Do not use women from Stardom. The Stardom women are great. They cannot continue to rely on other promotions' women. I know I'm just talking about Deonna Purrazzo being brought in from Impact, but that was clearly a one-off, unless they sign her when her Impact contract is up in a couple months, which would be fine by me. But this was the problem they ran into when they first started doing their women's division back in 2019. When they first started up the company, they were relying a lot on the Joshi women. And they're not on TV consistently enough for me to really give a fuck about them. Emi Sakura, I couldn't give two shits about. Riho is good. She's established enough to where people care about her. But like Ryu Mizunami, I don't give a fuck about. Even Yuka Sakazaki, she's good, but they're not on TV enough for me to really care. And you can't overly rely on women that aren't there as full-time members of your roster. You just can't. So do not rely on Stardom. Let them do their own thing. You can bring in women from Stardom once in a while, but to prioritize them over your own women, when you have enough women as it is that you're just not featuring in any meaningful way, that's a problem. The Joker and the Owen Hart Cup, I don't even think you need to sign that person, to be honest. I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Ember Moon, I think, should be on the AEW Women's Division. Nixon Noel, the former Tegan Nox, I love. I just feel like with her, I feel like Ember Moon would have a better chance of finding direction and really getting over in front of that crowd than Tegan Nox would. I just feel like she would get lost in the shuffle a lot quicker than Ruby Soho did. I feel like they just would not give a shit about Tegan Nox and AEW, the fans or management or whoever. I'd rather see her in Impact or something like that. Maybe the Ring of Honor Women's Division, but there's no real division yet, so it's kind of hard to say that. But you don't even need to sign that woman. It could be Candice LeRae for all we know, but she also just gave birth a couple of months ago, so I'm not exactly sure that's going to be happening. But yeah, we'll see. I don't really think they need to bring in any more women. They could bring in Ember Moon, that's fine. They have enough women. They just need to do more of meaning with said women. Get Thunder Rosa on the show more. Increase her presence. She cut a couple, a promo rather, a couple of minutes long last week on the show. Great. No one really seemed to care, but it was a good segment with her and Serena Deeb. Start building up more meaningful feuds. He had Baker and Rosa for a while. That was your ace in the hole. That's out of the way. We got to move on to more meaningful feuds. So I'm kind of curious where they go from here. Hopefully the cup helps. But they need to rely on their own women's division. They have the women at this point. That was an excuse back in the day. Oh, they don't have enough women. There's no one to sign. Well, they have plenty of women now. Plenty of women. There's no excuse not to bring them in at this point, or to not use them and bring them in on the show and put them in meaningful stories that people will give a fuck about. Tony Khan, clearly you can tell, is not the biggest women's wrestling enthusiast in the world. It's all a matter of making the women more of a, bigger stars on your show. Thunder Rosa feels like a star. Britt Baker feels like a star. And they have a lot of talent, but they're not really doing anything that I could really give a fuck about on that show. But a lot of those feuds quickly dissipated. And like Shida and Deeb going on for 6 months was ridiculous. And hopefully Rosa and Deeb is a step in that direction, starting a Double or Nothing. His next question. A lot of people are assuming that Lacey Evans is going to turn heel. Do you think fans are jumping to conclusions about Lacey's new character? No, they are not, because we have reason to believe that she is turning heel and headed to Raw, and that's per PW Insider. There was a report yesterday indicating that Lacey is not only headed to Raw, which would make sense because they aired that Lacey Evans promo on Raw on Monday, kind of an abbreviated version of all the promos she was cutting and all the vignettes from SmackDown over the last month. They haven't done that previously. They're doing that now probably because they're moving her to Raw for some reason. And based on the presentation, I mean, unless he was just speculating, I feel like a lot of what Meltzer says is just pure speculation and people think it's a report. I don't get that vibe from PW Insider Mike Johnson. I get the vibe that when he says something like that, he is reporting it not as if it's fact, but that is something that he's heard a credible source tell him or whatever that that's the plan going forward. And based on how she was introduced on SmackDown last week with the whole, oh, Lacey would like your respect, which was really weird. It sounded like a heel thing to do. I wasn't convinced they were turning her heel, but after reading that report, it's very possible. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, or it's definitely going to happen. There's a chance they still keep her face. But it looks like they are turning her heel. And to me, that is one of the dumbest things I've seen this company do in a while. And they haven't done a lot of dumb things, which is nice, but this is pretty fucking stupid. I mean, to build sympathy for this woman and have her get cheered after every vignette for a literal month, and then to turn around and be like, hey, I'm better than you, I'm a heel, I'm back to being the same heel I was before I left. If that was the case, then you just bring her back as the heel that she was before. I mean, it is not the same thing as Kurt Angle. People saying, oh, they built up Kurt Angle as an Olympic hero, and then he got booed. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but the biggest difference there was that the vignettes they aired for Kurt talking about his accolades were him boasting about being in the Olympics. That's great. Like, those are achievements. They could have made him a babyface, but it made more sense to turn him heel because you can kind of, do that play on the character. Like, oh, he's arrogant. He thinks he's better than everyone else because of everything else he's accomplished. You can twist it in that way. I don't know how you twist this. She has literally been building sympathy for herself by talking about abuse, physical abuse, substance abuse, all this other sort of stuff for weeks. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to be like, oh, fuck you. Like, that is pretty tone deaf. That is really dumb. So no, I don't think people are jumping to conclusions. The report, it's not even like, if you would ask me that on Friday, I would say yes. But coming off of that report from Tuesday, indicating that it is indeed the plan, or seems to be the plan, then hopefully plans change. I really hope they do, because if they go in that direction with her, then I don't know what to say. They have a real chance to make people care about Lacey Evans again. I'm not even saying they should exploit their story or exploit her story, but they've done a good job with the vignettes, and she's been more real than at any other point in her entire WWE career, so why squander that to make her just another heel on Raw? Or she'll be competing for the tag titles in 2 months. I mean, I just think that is insanely stupid. Next question from at DJ_Soulbones. We got plenty of questions here today, so can't spend too much time on each one. But he said, so if you had the book in WWE, put together 3 new tag teams for the women's division that Sasha Banks and Naomi could have some quality matches with. You can use anyone from the main roster as well as Io Shirai. I mean, this is tough, because if you said NXT, I would probably have a bit of a better time coming up with more teams, because the main roster women's divisions are very good, but they're also very limited, because there's a lot of women that are great, but they're doing something else right now. Like, I almost thought of not Ronda, which I'll get to in a second, but I almost thought of Rhea Ripley and Shotzi. They might be actually friends, but I was thinking of that team, because it's like, oh, they could turn Shotzi, or she already is a heel. They could put them together, but then I'm thinking, Ronda's already had, or not Ronda, I always get the Ronda Rhea mixed up, because they both have 2 R names. Rhea already had 2 tag team partners in the last 6 months with Nikki Ash and then Liv Morgan. To put her in another tag team now that she's in this faction would be very stupid. So I would hope they don't do that. Although it would be a cool team, now is not the time. The 3 teams that come to mind are these. Now, this might be a cop-out answer, but I would have Nikki and Doudrop be a team. The thing there is that I would change their gimmicks and names and everything entirely. Doudrop is a very good heel. The only issue with her presentation is the name. The Doudrop name is terrible, so either make her Piper Niven again or do something different. Nikki Ash has got to go either be back to being Nikki Cross or get another name change. Or Killer Cross is gone. Karrion Kross is gone. They can use the Cross last name again. The superhero shit has got to go. It's fucking dumb. It has never really worked. And hopefully Nikki losing on Monday's Raw in that tag team match, getting pinned by Sasha or Naomi, whoever it was, will be the catalyst for said character change. And I think those 2 together, it makes sense. Nikki doesn't really need to be a single superstar in that show. She had her time. It just wasn't very interesting, and she's talented, but I'd rather see a lot of other women focused ahead of her in that main women's championship picture. So her being in a tag team makes sense. Doudrop, same thing, very talented, but they kind of gave her time with Becky. She's lost a lot. She's lost to Bianca a lot, so I would kind of rebuild her in a tag team. Just repackage them, and then it's a lot better. Ronda Rousey and Shayna Basler. Now, that might sound far-fetched because Ronda's the current SmackDown Women's Champion, but we've seen women before be the main... I mean, I'm not even saying have them beat Sasha and Naomi, but you can play into that history there. The fact they haven't interacted at all on SmackDown yet, despite being on the same show, boggles my mind. And I know Shayna's a heel and Ronda's a face, but if they turn Ronda heel at some point, and they should, and even if they don't turn her heel anytime soon, you can have those 2 kind of team up, and I feel like you can take the dynamic of what Drew and Sheamus were doing a few years ago. Sheamus was not a full-fledged face when he was teaming with Drew McIntyre, and that was a longer story. They teamed over the course of a couple of months. Sheamus was still a heel, but then he was teaming with babyface Drew. I like that a lot, because it was like, it shows that they don't have to be both faces and both heels in order to be friends. I thought that was well done. Obviously, they then did the turn, and you could do something here with them, where Basler and Ronda team for a little while, whether they win the tag team titles or not, doesn't really matter. And then in the end, Basler turns on Ronda. And if Ronda is going to stay a baby, I mean, I don't really need to see Shayna Basler as a babyface. I think she's a great heel. But Ronda and Shayna for SummerSlam to me makes sense. Will they do that? Probably not. They don't see Shayna as a singles threat. They don't really give a fuck about Shayna. She's just there to lose matches. So I don't see that happening. But that is one team I would do as well. And then for the third team, you mentioned Io Shirai. So I'm going to use her. This might sound like an obvious pairing, but Io Shirai and Asuka. And Asuka, she has the whole thing going on with Becky right now, obviously, so she doesn't really need to be in the tag team title picture. She spent a long time in the tag team title picture with Kairi Sane, but they had great chemistry. The thing is that with Asuka, she's gone after every title. There really isn't much more you can do with her beyond putting her in the same division again and doing the same thing over again. Even the Becky feud we've seen before. This really is nothing new, okay? That being said, having her, giving her a different partner in Io Shirai, who I feel like is going to be dead on the water on the main roster. I want to see her on the main roster, but the problem is I have no faith they will utilize her properly, and she'll be just another woman on that show. They might give her a different character change and have her act all goofy like Asuka has been for years now, which is so fucking annoying. So I would rather just put her with Asuka, and you can play off the fact it's not like, oh, just put the Japanese talent together. It's not that. It would be, one, they would have great chemistry, and two, they have the Kairi Sane connection. Now, they wouldn't mention that on the show, but Io used to team with Kairi years ago in NXT, and then Kairi was brought up to the main roster with Asuka as a team. So it honestly does make sense to make them be a team, and it would give both women something to do, and I think it'd be a lot of fun. So I wouldn't do that right now because Asuka's obviously currently feuding with Becky. Maybe Shirai comes to Asuka's aid in the feud with Becky, and that's how you kind of establish them as a team. I really don't know what you do with Io Shirai. There is no spot for her in NXT 2.0, and she has long overstayed her welcome there. She's been there for like 3 or 4 years. They have got to move on. She's either got to move on to the main roster or leave the company altogether. And it would be nice if they at least gave her a shot on the main roster, but it's probably more likely they let her go, or she just leaves on her own. So they might have to change her name, because I think that's a name that she owns, Io Shirai. So we'll see. But those are the 3 teams I would do. Nikki and Doudrop, Ronda and Shayna, and Io Shirai and Asuka. At Kyle Rochelle 19, who will be Ronda Rousey's first opponent on SmackDown? That seems like a threat now that Charlotte is taking time off. I've heard rumblings of Bayley. I know she said the other day, oh, I'm recovering, blah, blah, blah. I think she was just saying that as a character. Like, her response read to me like she's trying to play up the injury as if it's a lot worse than expected. But she's actually good to come back, or will be coming back very soon. And so it's more of a surprise when she does come back. It is very likely she comes back on Friday. With Charlotte Flair being gone, as you said, who do they have left to challenge Ronda Rousey? Shotzi, give me a fucking break. Aaliyah, give me a fucking break. Shayna and Natalya are busy. I mean, they could always wrap up the thing with Sasha and Naomi, and then they can transition into Natalya or Shayna as Ronda's opponent. Shayna and Ronda would be interesting, if only based on their history. Natalya and Ronda also have history, but like I said earlier, I just don't give a fuck about Natalya, so I don't really need to see that personally. You have them, Raquel, it's too soon, plus she's a babyface anyway. Lacey's gone from the show. Who else even is there on SmackDown? Who else even is in that division right now? Shotzi? I honestly don't even know. I honestly have no clue. It's going to have to be Bayley. She'll lose to Ronda. She won't win the title off of Ronda. But it would make sense. I mean, Bayley's last match before she got hurt was supposed to be for the SmackDown Women's title, and then she got hurt, and she never got that opportunity. So, beyond Bayley, though, that women's division needs help, because there is not a lot of depth there at all. Their second question, now that Alexa Bliss is back on Raw, who is she going to have a feud with first? Raw now has top names in that women's division, which is good for Raw, but bad for SmackDown. I mean, there is Carmella, there is Zelina. I really don't care. The whole Zelina is just not great anyway in the ring. Carmella's not Bret Hart, but I mean, she's just been around doing everything with everyone forever. She's only been on Raw for about 6 to 8 months for the first time, but I don't really care about Carmella at this point. I just don't. I'm kind of over the whole thing. I just don't really care. Carmella is almost always there too, which is the problem. And she took a little bit of time off after WrestleMania, but then she came back immediately teaming with Zelina again, as if nothing ever happened. Her and Nikki and Doudrop, again, I don't really give a shit about that. Plus, we've already seen that. We've seen her and Nikki a million times. We saw her and Doudrop a little bit when she was feuding with Eva Marie last year. I would rather see her feud with someone a bit more meaningful. And the only 2 names that come to mind right now, it would probably be Deville. I know she just beat Sonya in 20 seconds on Monday. But you can make more of a feud out of that and stretch it out a little bit more. If not Deville, then Lacey Evans. Because, again, like I said earlier, it looks like she's being brought to Raw as a heel, which to me makes no fucking sense. And they're going to need someone for Lacey to feud with, and Alexa Bliss would make sense. So it'll probably be either Lacey Evans or Sonya Deville. I thought WWE was going to make some sort of announcement. This is their next question, by the way. I thought WWE was going to make some sort of an announcement about what was next for Roman Reigns on Raw. Will they make him defend it at Hell in the Cell next month, or keep waiting, which would be a bad move? I mean, I thought they might announce or establish what was next for Roman as well, but I don't think they ever advertised the Bloodline being on Raw. That being said, I think he will defend at Hell in the Cell. He hasn't had a single championship defense since WrestleMania when he became the Undisputed Champion, and that was over a month ago. He should have defended at the pay-per-view, especially if they were going to win, too. They probably should have just made it a winner-take-all match there, but if reports are to be believed and they don't want to unify the tag team titles, then to even tease it is beyond fucking dumb. And now they're doubling down, too, because they didn't do it at WrestleMania Backlash, but RK Bro teased it on Raw. And per a report from Meltzer, which take it with a grain of salt, but it sounds like they don't plan on unifying the titles, and they're just doing that as an attraction. It's going to end in a DQ and have that be it, which is ridiculous. But anyway, at Hell in the Cell, I wouldn't put him inside Hell in the Cell because there's no feud right now that really warrants that. Unless Brock comes back and they do that again, which I have no desire to see again anytime soon, if ever again. I don't really want to see that. Him and Drew is possible. I thought they might save that for a stadium show, but they could do it there. And I was thinking they could do Orton and Roman too, but it looks like we might be getting Orton or RK Bro against the Usos at the pay-per-view instead. So, unless they do it on TV and that bleeds into Randy versus Roman at the pay-per-view, which is possible, I would not mind that at all. But yeah, we'll see. Roman should defend on that pay-per-view, though. I mean, this is why they should not have unified the titles. They should still have two separate championships in this company, especially if rumors are to be believed and Roman might be taking time off for the entire summer. And now he might be on pay-per-views, but the fact that he wouldn't be defending or he wouldn't be on TV at all as champion is completely ridiculous. Completely stupid. They really should separate those titles, and they really never should have, had them unified in the first place. But yes, I do think Roman will defend on that show. If he doesn't, then what are we even doing here? At Reborn again, or was that the... Yeah. The next question comes from John. John Ritland from the Twitter and YouTube machine. Check out a show, Real Honesty with John Ritland at Reborn again on Twitter. His question was, first question. So WrestleMania Backlash was certainly better than many expected. You were there live. What would you say was the best match on the show? Honestly, I enjoyed the show. I'm not saying it was the greatest pay-per-view I've ever been to. I was just at WrestleMania a month ago, and that was obviously far better, far more meaningful. But I liked the 6-match card. There wasn't a bad match on the show. I didn't really give a fuck about Corbin and Moss, but it wasn't a bad match. Even Lashley and Omos was fine for what it was. And it was a decent show. And it felt like a glorified live event, like a glorified house show. But I thought the main event was kick-ass, and the opener was outstanding. So I gotta go with the opener. I thought the opener, if I had to rank the matches, which you can because it's so easy because there's 6 matches, I would go with the Cody and Rollins match as the best match on the show. I fucking love that match. Definitely one of the best matches of the year. The main event was a lot of fun. So those two. I mean, if you said the main event over the opener, that's fine too because that match was great, especially down the stretch. As an overall package, I would probably go with the opener. Rhodes and Rollins number 1, main event 2, 3 AJ and Edge, 4 Ronda and Charlotte, and then 5 Corbin and Moss was probably better worked than Lashley and Omos, but I just cared more about Lashley and Omos because I don't give a fuck about Corbin and Moss. I probably would go Lashley and Omos and then Corbin and Moss, not because it was bad, but just no one cared. I literally went to the bathroom, was hanging out near the concession area for a while before even getting back, and the match was still going on between Corbin and Moss, so... no one cared. And the line for the bathroom and the merch stand and getting food and stuff for that match was out the door because no one cared. Everyone left their seat. Not everyone, but a lot of people did. So that is the match order in which I would say the best matches on the show were at WrestleMania Backlash. His second question, well, they certainly featured a lot of women on NXT 2.0, which was certainly interesting at times. One question, though. Why do they have Roxanne take the pin and not Wendy Chu? That is exactly what I said. I said the exact same thing on Twitter last night. It was a fine match. I love Roxanne. I think she's great. Toxic Attraction winning in their own title match was fine. But again, as you said, the reason why they didn't have Wendy Chu get pinned was because they're building to her challenging Mandy Rose for the NXT Women's Championship. That's why they didn't have her get her pinned. But that's why they didn't have her pinned. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. To her credit, Wendy Choo is a good worker. The gimmick fucking sucks. I know people were trying to oh, it's so funny. Oh, the crowd loves it. It's fucking dumb. It is not going to get beyond a certain level. And if they built up Mandy Rose for all this time only to have her lose to Wendy fucking Choo, I will be very upset. I mean, there are so many women they've had her beat, steamroll through, not give a fuck about. And then all of a sudden for her to lose to Wendy Choo of all people would be ridiculous. Again, more props to Wendy Choo for even getting on TV. There was a period of time where they weren't featuring her at all before the Mei Ying stuff, and the Mei Ying stuff was done by the end. That was just fucking stupid. I'm not sure what's worse between this or that, but she has just been relegated to one bad gimmick after another. And they got to move on from this. They really should have had Wendy get pinned and build to Roxanne being the one to take the championship off of Mandy Rose. Roxanne is still super young and new, but I would take that over Wendy Choo. The Wendy Choo stuff is really bad. But yeah, they did that because they want to protect Wendy before the eventual championship match. But I have no desire to see that, and I think Roxanne should be winning more than she's losing currently. She's now, 1 win and 2 losses? 1-1 is fine, but when you go 1 win and 2 losses, that's not good. So they got to start rebounding pretty soon. Last 3 questions come from @TheWrestleGuy Sal. Great to hear from Sal, and great to see Sal. He was at Raw on Monday, ran into him in Hartford. I haven't seen Sal, I don't think, since the last time we were in that venue in Hartford for the last Raw of 2019, the big Lashley and Lana wedding in December 2019, which was terrible, but great to run into Sal. He's great. His first question was, if Roman Reigns really does start his transition into Hollywood after WrestleMania 39, as people speculate, what does WWE do? The seeds were being planted for Roman before John Cena fully made the transition, but it seems like no one is being planted to fill that Roman spot as of now. That's a great question. I don't know if Roman would disappear full-time after Mania 39. I don't think he's disappearing. It sounds like he's not being advertised for any shows this summer at all beyond the pay-per-views, which to me is just weird. Why would he be on pay-per-view but not be... what are they going to do on TV if he's not there on the shows? That's very weird to me. You are right, though. Before Cena left full-time, Cena stopped being full-time in 2015? Because he was on TV a lot in 2015. He got hurt in 2015. And that's why he was gone. He left to go do a movie, I think, in October of that year. When he came back in 2016, he was never full-time again. He was only there for a couple months at a time. So I think 2015 was his last full-time run with WWE, and his appearances have been far and few between since then. It's honestly amazing to think that Cena has barely been on the show in the last couple of years. He hasn't been on WWE TV all year this year. The only time we saw him last year was for a month leading into SummerSlam, which was great, but that was the only time we saw him on TV. 2020, he was on TV, but just for, again, a month, and part of it was during the COVID era, so he was only on TV for a month. In 2019, he wasn't really on TV at all. He made a few appearances here and there, but he wasn't back for a program. 2018, he was barely around, so yeah, he really hasn't been full-time in a very long time. But yeah, who are they going to have fill those shoes before Roman or after Roman's gone? That's the problem. They're not really planting the seeds for anyone. They don't really have the guy. Now, they have a couple of options as far as Drew and Cody are concerned. The problem is that they're not... are they around the same age? I feel like they're as old as Roman is. When Roman was being groomed as the guy, he was either in his late 20s or early 30s or whatever. He wasn't... I don't think Roman's 40, so he must have been in his late 20s, because he debuted 10 years ago. Cody and Drew are not in their late 20s. Age isn't everything, but they do need someone younger that's going to be there for a while. We don't know how long Cody and Drew are going to be around for, probably for the foreseeable future, I would have to imagine. But they're already in their mid-30s. You need a younger person to really fill that spot. Braun Breaker can be that guy. He's young, he's already very good, and I can see him filling that spot. So Braun Breaker is probably the best answer I can tell you right now. He's got to move up to the main roster, but that's the problem, and they need to start now as opposed to waiting until after Roman's already gone, because by that point it's too late, and then you're having to start from scratch. So Braun Breaker is probably the best answer. Beyond him, Theory is another guy. I don't see him being the next Roman Reigns, but I could see Theory being a top heel on either brand for many years to come. That's the men. I'm thinking for women, like Rhea and Bianca should be who those divisions are built around going forward. They're both phenomenal. Again, back to the men, though. I think of Cody. I think of Drew. I think of Braun. I'm not really sure who else there is, to be honest with you. I'm thinking of like the Raw division. Rollins isn't, he's already been established for a long time. I don't really know, but those are the 3 names that come to mind. I mean, they could always create new stars, bring in new stars, stuff like that, but as of now, those are the 3 that come to mind, and only one of them is in his mid-20s, so. Opposite ends of the spectrum, like they have a lot of great people on the main roster right now that are already like in their mid-30s, but no one coming up. It's either you're either in your mid to late 30s or in your early 20s. Like it feels like there's nobody in their late 20s aside from maybe like Sasha Banks that isn't brand new, but it could be around for the next 10 years if she wanted to be. And it's not like you have to get rid of these people when they're 40, but it's just a lot less likely they're going to feature these people in a main role when they're that old, unless there's someone like an AJ Styles who came in with a lot of credibility and notoriety already, you know what I mean? So those would be the 3 names that come to mind. That's a good question, though. His next question, what do you think needs to be done with SmackDown? The roster difference to Raw is just insane, making Raw the better show. Who do you think should be drafted to SmackDown to make it more equal? The loss of talent. I mean, the draft, Raw really got the better of the draft anyway, but SmackDown picked up some notable people, all of whom are currently gone. Like Cesaro left when his contract expired, so he took off. Jeff Hardy got fired. Hit Row got fired. Someone else I thought left too. I don't remember. I mean, Ronda came back, and that's been a nice, not really, I can't really say it's been a boost because that women's division really has not been overly good, but they just lost Lacey to Raw for some random reason. They got Raquel and Gunther, which is great. Butch. So they did bring in some new people, probably LA Knight as well. That is only going to help. Because my question a couple of months ago was, SmackDown sucks. What can we do to improve it? And part of it was to bring in new faces. Now we have that with the former Pete Dunne and the former Walter and LA Knight and whatever. But that's not the answer because SmackDown is still awful. We need more variety, need more people on the show. We cannot continue to be, subjected to New Day versus Sheamus and Ridge Holland matches. We need to move on from that at some point. You know what I mean? Try to create new stars. Ricochet's a fucking loser right now. I mean, try to better that Intercontinental Championship, add some new tag teams, call more people up. I mean, just write better storylines. Like, it's not that difficult, I wouldn't think. It's just not, SmackDown is not a good show. As far as, again, I don't know if bringing anyone over to SmackDown would really help, but if you really want to boost the numbers as far as people that are on the roster, which you should, because, again, SmackDown has lost a lot more people in the last 6 months than Raw has. A few names that come to mind. Bayley's an obvious one, as we mentioned earlier. I think she very well could be and should be Ronda's first opponent as champion, as her first challenger. SmackDown needs Bayley far more than Raw does at this point. Since Raw picked up Asuka, Alexa Bliss, they just brought Lacey Evans over there. They don't need Bayley. I would like to see Bayley on Raw, but it doesn't look like they need her right now. So I'm going to say Bayley back to SmackDown. Ali, just supplement, or I don't know what the word would be, but take Ali, Mustafa Ali, in The Miz. Take that feud and put it on SmackDown. Now, I know they're teasing Theory and Ali, which is fine, but Ali should have not been brought back to Raw. I mean, SmackDown, they have people they're not using, but they have almost no mid-card. And Ali could have really helped out in that way. Ali and Ricochet could have a banger series of matches as they did a few years ago on Main Event and on Raw. I feel like Ali would have been better off on SmackDown. I know SmackDown creatively is the worst show, but they could have used him more. Because on Raw, what is he doing? He's feuding with a couple different people, but I just feel like it's a lot more likely he'll get lost in the shuffle. They don't really need him right now, so I would put Ali on SmackDown along with The Miz. I've always felt like The Miz does his best work on SmackDown. He could be used as a mid-card heel on Raw right now, which he has been doing, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter where The Miz is, but I would probably put him on SmackDown. As far as two bigger names, I know they're both currently busy, but Balor and Lashley. Balor, I know, is teaming with AJ right now, so I wouldn't put him on SmackDown anytime. First of all, I would wait till the draft, but that's months away, so you probably can't wait that long. You have to explain why certain people are switching shows. I mean, you don't have to, because this company doesn't, but it would help if they did. So it's not insulting the intelligence of the viewers, but whatever. Balor's currently teaming with AJ with the whole Edge thing. Maybe wrapped it up at some point in the next couple of months, and then put Balor back on SmackDown. He should have never moved to Raw. Not that his SmackDown run was lighting the world on fire, but he had more TV time and more direction over there than he has on Raw so far. And then Lashley, again, he's wrapping up, hopefully, his feud with Omos on Monday's Raw inside the steel cage. But I just feel like it's time to move on to something new for him as well. Because the Omos has run its course. Raw already has Cody. They have AJ as their top baby faces over there, and a few other people. They don't really need Bobby on the show, and SmackDown has Drew, and that's about it. So to even it out, I would put Bobby on SmackDown, and we also haven't seen Bobby on SmackDown since he returned to the company 4 years ago, so it would be something new. Last question from Sal. Out of the following, who would you like to see win the Money in the Bank the most or have the highest chance? Cody Rhodes, for obvious reasons. Kevin Owens just main evented WrestleMania. Theory has McMahon fully behind him. And Seth Rollins, who is going to need a big bounce back after the Rhodes feud. Rollins does need a bounce back. I don't know if turning him face at some point is inevitable, but you don't need to have him win Money in the Bank, I don't think. We already saw him do the whole Mr. Money in the Bank thing 8 years ago, which wild to think it's that long. It's been that long, but we've already seen him in that role before. I don't really have any desire to see that again. Theory is great. I don't think he'll be ready for the world title by Mania or by later this year. I just feel like that would backfire on them. I don't think he should be pushed that level right. Money in the Bank is in like 2 months. He could be Money in the Bank while United States champion like Miz was 10, 12 years ago. I wouldn't be upset if he won, but I just feel like it might be a little too soon for that. And then that leaves Kevin and Cody. Kevin hasn't had a real world title run since he lost the Universal Championship 5 years ago. The problem with that, though, is that, I would love for Kevin Owens to win Money in the Bank. I think it'd be perfect for his character. The problem is that Roman's the champion of both belts. I don't see Kevin Owens cashing in on Roman. We've already seen that anyway, as far as Kevin and Roman, the matches they've had a lot over the years. And they work well together, but I don't really want to see it again. The thing with Kevin is that I don't think they see him as the next world champion. I don't think they see him as being world championship material. And honestly, one of the only reasons why he won that championship in the first place back in 2016 was because Balor got hurt. And Balor probably would have had the run that Kevin Owens ended up having, just although as a babyface and not as a heel. That run just was not great. They did him dirty. It would be nice if he had another championship run. It doesn't look like they will, though. So I don't think that's going to happen. Cody Rhodes just makes the most sense. I know Cody doesn't really need the briefcase, but I wouldn't even have him cash in as a surprise. I would have him come out 2 days after winning Money in the Bank saying, hey, not cash in that night, but say, hey, SummerSlam's in 4 weeks. Let's do it there. Let's have our match at SummerSlam and announce his cash in advance and win. That is what I would do. I've been saying that for a while. And it kind of makes sense too. Cody almost and probably should have won Money in the Bank at least once during his previous run. He was in it in 2010, 2011, 2012. He wasn't ready in 2010 or 2011. He definitely could have won it in 2012. The only problem was that Ziggler was that much more ready, and Ziggler needed it more. So Ziggler won. So at least it made sense for Ziggler to win. But, Cody definitely should be winning Money in the Bank, I think. Of the 4 people you mentioned, I would not be mad. I think the best case scenario and the highest chance of winning at this current point would be Cody Rhodes. Not to cash in as a surprise like Big E did on Lashley. I feel like some people, specifically babyfaces, because the Money in the Bank briefcase gimmick does work better with heels. I feel like with babyfaces, though, it makes more sense to have them announce their cash in advance, depending on who it is and what the circumstance is. Braun did that and he lost. There was a no contest, he looked like a moron for doing that in retrospect. But Cody, I think he should cash in advance and win. I would hope Cody would win it, say, hey, I'm cashing in at SummerSlam, and then win there, but you never know with this company, but that's what I would do. And that's going to do it, guys, for very long, an extra lengthy edition of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, May 11th, 2022, episode 441. We are an hour and 10 minutes in. That's crazy. Certainly the longest episode in quite some time. We had a lot of great questions today, so I appreciate you guys sticking around to hear me answer your questions on the show. That said, if you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with #AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop your question on the post that I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, guys. A great rest of your week. We'll be back here tomorrow for WrestleRant radio excerpts and other stuff going on here on the channel. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Check out my other live reactions from Raw and Backlash, respectively. Being there live, it was a great time. And hit that bell button to be notified every time a new video goes up. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.